My sisters, there comes a time when the tongue must rest and the heart must rise. There is a power in stillness, a holiness in silence, and a fire in the quiet strength of a woman who chooses peace over proving. Now, don't misunderstand me. To stay silent is not to be weak. No, not at all. To stay silent is not to be invisible. It is to be invincible. You see, the woman who trusts her God does not fight every battle. She does not clap back, scream loud, or demand her worth to be seen, because her worth is known by heaven. When tears roll down her cheek in the midnight hour, and injustice knocks at her door, and betrayal sits at her table, she need not raise her voice. They told her to be loud, to shout her name into every room she entered, to slam her fists on tables, to stomp her feet when overlooked, to rage, to fight, to howl in protest when the world forgot her brilliance. But she knew better. She knew that real strength does not always come dressed in thunder. Sometimes it walks soft and speaks low. Sometimes it says nothing at all. She had learned through bruised faith and broken expectations that the loudest voice is not always the most powerful one. And the woman who keeps her spirit steady when storms swirl, when tempers flare, when the world around her is burning, that woman carries the might of queens and the humility of saints. Now let me tell you something, child. There's a peculiar kind of strength in silence. A deliberate, divine, and deliberate power. Not the silence of fear. No, don't confuse them. Not the silence of shrinking. Not the silence of submission to wrong. But the silence of one who knows that her roar lives in her soul, and she doesn't need to prove it to the world. There is a silence that is sacred. It is wrapped in wisdom. It is seasoned with patience. It is baptized in self-control. When she chooses not to clap back, not to engage with every insult thrown her way, not to avenge every wound inflicted on her name. She is not weak. She is wise. She is choosing the higher road that many mouths preach, but few feet walk. You see, strength is not always a declaration. Sometimes strength is a decision not to explain yourself to those who delight in misunderstanding you, a decision to walk away instead of swinging back, a decision to let the heavens speak louder than your voice ever could. I've seen a woman hold her head high while being cut low. I have seen her smile with eyes full of tears. I have seen her offer kindness to those who mistreated her, and that, my dear, is no weakness. It is strength forged in fire. Let me tell you, she has cried. Yes, she has. Behind closed doors, she has wept into her hands. She has screamed into her pillow. She has wondered, why must I be the one to stay calm? But deep within her spirit, she knows. Her silence is not emptiness. It is filled with prayer. It is saturated with grace. It is louder than rage. It is heavier than insult. It is more powerful than pride. You see, silence is a place where self-break lives. It is the echo of dignity. It is what happens when a woman knows her value and doesn't demand a receipt from the world. And oh, how the world will test her. It will poke at her wounds, mock her softness, mistake her gentleness for surrender. But that's the world's mistake to make, because God sees. He sees the quiet strength. He sees the woman who holds her tongue when it burns to speak. He sees the woman who kneels instead of curses. He sees the woman who rises each morning with peace as her armor. There is nothing louder than the silence of a strong woman. It speaks volumes. It tells her enemies, I'm not playing your game. It tells her soul, you belong to something higher. It tells her God, I trust you to fight for me. Let the others shout. Let them wrestle in the mud. Let them drag their names and reputations through the dust of conflict. But the silent woman, she stands above it, not because she thinks herself better, but because she knows she belongs to the better. She's not silent because she has no words. She is silent because she knows words have weight. She knows timing is sacred. She knows sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all, because in that nothing, heaven speaks. In that quiet, angels move. In that hush, God draws near. And oh, when he draws near, mountains move, enemies flee, battles are won without a blade being drawn. So I say to you, beloved, don't you dare mistake her silence for surrender. Don't you dare call her quiet a form of defeat. That woman, standing tall with her lips closed and her heart wide open, she is waging a holy war. She is letting God be God, and there is no stronger position than that. So yes, silence is strength. It is not absence. It is presence full and majestic. It is the sound of a woman who knows who she is, whose she is, and who fights for her. And when you know those things, child, you don't have to shout. You don't have to scream. You can stand still and silent and still shake the earth. Faith, my dear, is not a feather. It is a fortress. It does not blow with the wind. It bends the wind to its knees. When a woman walks with faith, she walks with more than her feet. She walks with the confidence of heaven's army behind her. She steps with grace, not because the ground is easy, but because her soul is held in the palm of God's hand. You see, faith is not a passive thing. It is not sitting still and wishing hard. No. Faith is movement in silence, strength in softness, and power wrapped in humility. There's a mystery, a wonder in the woman who moves, not because she knows the way, but because she knows the God. She doesn't need all the answers. She doesn't demand to see the whole map. She takes one step, just one, and the Lord lights the path beneath her. She has learned that if God is for her, there is no against that can last, no storm strong enough, no betrayal deep enough, no threat loud enough, because faith, real, rooted faith, calls God's presence near. Let me tell you, there are doors that won't open by force, they open by faith. There are enemies you'll never have to face, because faith caused God to step in before you arrived. There are traps laid at your feet that you'll never fall into, because faith rerouted your steps in the night while you were sleeping. When a woman chooses faith, she chooses protection. Not always protection from pain, but protection through it. Not always protection from the fire, but faith that she will walk through it and not be burned. Ask the 3 Hebrew boys. They knew what it was to walk into flames, but never smell like smoke. They knew what it was to stand in a furnace and find that the 4th man was already there. That's what faith does. It invites God into the fire before the heat ever touches your skin. Now, hear me. Faith is not pretending that danger doesn't exist. It is believing that God is bigger than the danger. It is not blindness. It is boldness. It's looking at the lion's den and still saying, I'll kneel and pray anyway. It's hearing the threat and choosing peace. It's seeing the mountain and climbing anyhow. A woman of faith. Oh, she's dangerous in the best way. Not because she swings swords, but because her prayers reach heaven. Because when she opens her mouth to speak to her Father, creation listens. Demons tremble. And God responds. She doesn't need to fight with fists. She fights with faith. She doesn't need to raise her voice. She raises her praise. She doesn't need to fear the night because her faith is light. And oh, how God honors that. He covers the faithful. He shields them in storms, surrounds them with favor like a garment. When others crumble from what they see, she stands on what she believes. And that belief, my dear, becomes her current. People may not understand her peace. They'll say, how can you be calm when everything is falling apart? And she'll simply smile, because she knows her calm is not hers. It's borrowed from God. It's the kind of calm that only comes when your trust is planted deep, when your soul is rooted in something greater than this world. She does not fear tomorrow because she knows who holds it. She does not tremble at the news, because her faith is built on good news. She has faced things that would break others, but she remains whole. Not because she's lucky, not because she's special, but because her faith invited God into the situation, and when God is in it, there is no fear that can stay, no threat that can hold, no weapon that can prosper. I have seen a woman stand in the ruins of what she once built and lift her hands in praise. I have seen her worship with tears rolling down her cheeks. I have seen her forgive what others said was unforgivable, and I know that kind of strength is born from faith. Faith doesn't always fix the situation. Sometimes it fixes you. It makes you brave in the face of the unknown. It steadies your hands when you want to quit. It whispers, "Keep going. I am with you." And that whisper, that voice of God, it is more powerful than 1,000 shouts of the enemy. It quiets every fear. It calms every storm. So when you see her silent, don't assume she's given up. She might be listening. She might be waiting. She might be praying. And faithful prayer, my child, moves mountains. It opens heavens. It shakes the earth. It calls angels to attention. It turns the tide. And all of that starts with a simple decision: to believe. To believe when it's hard. To trust when it hurts. To walk when you're tired. To kneel when you're broken. To speak life when all you see is death. That's the kind of faith that activates divine protection. Not superstition, not wishful thinking, but a deep soul-rooted trust that says, I don't know how, but I know who. And when you know who, you can survive the unknown. When you know who, you can sleep through the storm. When you know who, you don't need to know when, where, or why. You just take the next step. You just whisper that prayer. You just hold your head high, because your faith has already gone ahead of you. It has already moved the obstacles, already redirected the arrows, already silenced the accuser, already called heaven's warriors to your side. So, child, believe. Walk in that belief, and know this: when a woman chooses faith, she never walks alone. It is a sacred thing, child, to trust when you have every reason to doubt, to lean when everything inside of you says stand stiff, to let go when the world teaches you to hold on tight, to rest in a God you cannot see, but feel so deeply, so completely, that his presence is more real than the air you breathe. The woman who trusts God, truly trusts him, she walks differently. She carries herself like the daughter of a king, not because she's never been hurt, but because she knows her healing is already written. She does not panic in the pause, nor does she rush the silence. She understands that God's delays are not denials. They are divine rehearsals, teaching her how to wait with grace, how to sit in expectancy without bitterness, and how to praise in the hallway while the door is still shut. I've seen her. Yes, I've seen that woman. Weary but walking, wounded but worshiping. A woman with tears on her face and still hallelujah on her tongue. A woman who has been let down by people but lifted by God. A woman whose plans didn't work out, yet somehow she did. Now that kind of trust doesn't come easy. No, it is not given. It is grown. It is pressed out like oil from the olive, birthed in the darkness where only God can see. She has cried, she has questioned, she has clutched her chest in the night, wondering if God forgot her address. But still she believed. Still she waited. Still she said, Lord, I trust. And that, my love, is when heaven leans close. Because God, he listens for that sound. Not the thunder of demands, not the echo of complaints, but the still, quiet voice of a woman who says, I don't know how. You'll do it, but I know you will. And when she says that from the center of her soul, God stands up on her behalf. He dispatches angels to war in rooms she'll never enter. He turns hearts that seemed made of stone. He rearranges the battlefield before she ever arrives. Because when a woman trusts God, he takes it personally. He says, that's my daughter. That's my beloved, that one knows my name. Trust, you see, is a holy offering. It is giving up the illusion of control and choosing instead to walk with the one who never fails, the one who parts seas with whispers, the one who makes rivers in the desert, the one who keeps every promise even when we forget how to believe in them. The woman who trusts doesn't have to chase. She doesn't have to perform. She doesn't have to beg. She simply surrenders. And that surrender becomes her security. Now, don't mistake her calm for weakness. Oh, no. Her calm is earned. Her quiet is cultivated. She's had to silence the screams of fear inside her, push past disappointment, walk through seasons of lack. But even when the fig tree did not blossom, even when the vines bore no fruit, she chose to rejoice. She chose to trust. And for that God honored her. He lifted her when others left her. He crowned her when life tried to curse her. He clothed her in strength and dignity. He filled her mouth with wisdom and her heart with peace. People may not understand how she keeps going. They ask, how do you smile with all that you've been through? She doesn't explain. She just smiles. Because she knows it's not her strength, it's not her plan, it's not even her might. It is the faithfulness of a God who keeps showing up. Trust doesn't mean she never doubts. It means that when doubt comes knocking, she lets God answer the door. It means she doesn't lean on her feelings, but on his faithfulness. The world tells her to be suspicious, to hold back, to protect herself. But she has chosen a different path. She has chosen to be led, to be guided, to be shaped by the hands of the Almighty. And it's not just that she trusts him with her past. She trusts him with her future. She trusts him with the unknown, with the unanswered, with the unspoken. She trusts him with her children, her home, her call. She trusts him to be the God of details, from the smallest tear to the largest mountain. And child, let me tell you, God does not overlook that kind of faith. He rewards it. He honors it. He said, blessed is she who believed. And that blessing still stands. For every woman who holds on to hope when the world offers none, God sees you. He sees the tears you didn't cry out loud. He sees the prayers you whispered through cracked lips. He sees the nights you spent on your knees, not asking for riches, not asking for revenge, but asking for peace, for purpose, for strength, just to get through. And because you trusted him, he is working it all together for your good. Not just the pretty parts, but the messy parts, the painful parts, the things you thought disqualified you. He is turning ashes into beauty. He is giving you joy where there was sorrow. He is opening doors no man can shut, because trust is the key. And you, beloved, you have dared to hold it. So walk tall, lift your head, square your shoulders, because the God you trust, he has never failed. He will not start with you. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And he will honor your trust in ways you could never imagine. He will say of you, that's my daughter. She believed me. She walked with me. She trusted me. And I came through. There is a beauty, a fierce and silent nobility in a woman who knows that not every battle must be fought aloud. In a world that applauds noise and worships the loudest voice in the room, there is a rare kind of majesty in the woman who says, I will not argue. I will not scream. I will not throw my pearls before swine. I will let God speak for me. You see, child, there is strength in stillness. There is power in silence. And there is a grace that cannot be shaken when a woman steps back and says, this one's not mine to fight. That is not weakness. No, it is wisdom, hard-earned and heaven-born. The kind of wisdom that knows when to speak and when to hush, when to stand tall and when to kneel low. It is the wisdom that understands sometimes silence is not surrender, it is strategy. Let me tell you about the kind of woman God. She does not answer every accusation. She does not run after every rumor. She does not correct every lie spoken in secret places. Because she knows the truth walks slowly, but it always catches up. She knows the God who watches in the dark will reveal in the light. And so she waits. She waits while the world talks. She waits while people whisper. She waits while false tongues wag and slander stings. And all the while she holds her peace. Not because she is afraid, but because she is aligned. She is aligned with a holy understanding that God does not need help being God. He has never lost a battle, never misjudged a heart, never failed to vindicate the ones he loves. And this woman, this daughter of the Most High, she knows he will fight for her, not with swords or shouts, but with favor, with justice, with truth. And what God does in secret, no man can undo in public. Some folks won't understand why she's quiet. They'll think she's timid, passive, maybe even weak. But oh, they don't know the fire that burns behind her stillness. They don't see the war waged in her prayers. They don't hear the roar of angels dispatched on her behalf while she lays her burdens down in the hush of night. While the world screams, she whispers, God, you see, you know, you judge righteously. And in that sacred silence, he begins to move. Let me tell you, when God moves for the woman who stayed silent, he moves mightily. He clears rooms she didn't have the strength to exit. He exposes lies she didn't have the energy to combat. He raises her up in places her name was once dragged through the mud. He places a crown of dignity upon her head and says, this is my daughter. She trusted me with her silence. Now I will speak. And when God speaks, no rebuttal can stand. When God vindicates, no enemy can outmaneuver him. His justice is perfect. His timing is precise, and his hand is sure. He does not miss. He does not delay. He does not forget. He simply waits for the woman who says, vengeance is yours, Lord, not mine. This woman, she has cried in the closet. She has been talked about, betrayed, misunderstood. She has held her tongue while her heart broke wide open. But she never broke her promise to trust God with the battle. And because of that, she now walks in a victory that cannot be taken from her. A peace that passes understanding, a joy that confuses her enemies. Let me remind you, child, Jesus himself stood silent before his accusers, not because he had no defense, but because he was the defense. And in that silence, he fulfilled her purpose. He conquered hell, death, and the grave. So don't you ever think your silence means you've lost. Sometimes silence is the sound of destiny unfolding. Sometimes silence is the strongest sermon you'll ever preach. The woman who stays silent in the face of injustice does not do so out of fear. No, she does it out of trust. She knows her words can only reach so far. But her God can reach into the marrow of a man's soul. He can turn hearts, shut mouths, and open eyes. So she places her situation into his hands and leaves it there. Oh, it takes maturity to stay silent. It takes humility to say, I don't need to be right in their eyes. I just need to be right with God. It takes a spirit tempered by truth to know that your character will carry you further than your comebacks ever could. And it takes a woman who knows who she is to not defend who she is. You see, the silent woman is not voiceless. She is powerful. She is discerning. She knows that not every response deserves her energy, that not every confrontation deserves her peace, that not every battle is hers to fight. She has nothing to prove because she knows she walks with the one who proves everything in time. And when the time comes, beloved, God will do just that. He will prepare a table before her in the presence of her enemy. He will anoint her head with oil. Her cup will run over. And those who once mocked her silence will witness the sound of her redemption. Because when God speaks for you, the entire world hears. When God lifts you, no man can pull you down. When God vindicates you, no lie can outlive the truth. So if you are that woman sitting in the quiet, bearing your pain in silence, resisting the urge to defend yourself, know this: God sees you. God is fighting for you. Every prayer you whispered is before his throne. Every tear you cried is caught in his hand. And your silence is not unnoticed. It is sacred. It is strength wrapped in grace. Hold your peace, daughter. Let the world rage. Let the accusations fly. Let the storm rise. You do not need to shout to be heard in heaven. You do not need to fight to be found faithful. Just stay still. Stay quiet. Stay clothed in dignity. And let God show what he does best. Defend, deliver, and exalt the ones who trust him enough to stay silent. When a woman walks through fire and comes out unburned, when she is struck by storm after storm and still finds a way to lift her face toward the sun, people begin to wonder about her secret. They whisper, how is she still standing? They question, why does her peace not crumble under pressure? But what they do not know, what they cannot see, is that she has made a holy decision. She has chosen faith over fear and silence over chaos. She has decided in the deepest part of her soul that she will not fight like the world fights. She will let God fight for her. And when the Lord fights for you, child, there is always a victory waiting on the other side. There's something magnetic, something almost divine about a woman who walks in victory that was not achieved by shouting, but by surrender. You see, it takes a rare kind of strength to step back and say, God, I trust you enough to wait for you. That's not passivity. That's not hiding. That's not cowardice. That is the boldness of a lioness who knows she belongs to the King of Kings. That is the courage of a daughter who understands her inheritance is protected by hands greater than hers. Let me tell you, this kind of woman, the silent warrior, she doesn't need to announce her triumph. She carries it in her posture, in the light of her eyes, in the steadiness of her stride. Her victory is not loud, but it is loud enough to silence every critic. It is the kind of victory that makes her enemies bow their heads, not in submission to her, but in awe of what God has done for her. Because when God fights for a woman, her victory becomes a testimony, not just to her strength, but to his glory. You must understand, victory doesn't always look like a crown. Sometimes it looks like peace in the middle of chaos. Sometimes it looks like joy in the face of sorrow. Sometimes it looks like walking away from what was meant to destroy you and doing it with your head held high. That's victory. That's deliverance. That's God stepping into your mess and making it your message. The woman who lets God fight for her doesn't gloat when the battle is won. She weeps, she lifts her hand, she gives thanks. She knows it wasn't by her might nor by her wit, but by his Spirit. She knows that every closed mouth, every withheld word, every quiet tear was seen by a God who sits high and looks low. And he answered her silence with strength. He replied to her restraint with reward. There's something majestic about a woman who has come through trials and still has a song. She's not bitter. She's not broken. She's better because she learned that letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means making room for God to show up. And oh, how he shows up for her. He makes a way where there was none. He lifts her from the ashes and clothes her with dignity. He turns her mourning into dancing, her sorrow into celebration. And suddenly, those who questioned her silence now marvel at her rising. They see the glow that no highlighter can imitate, the grace that no performance